Hello, I'm Benjamin Beaver with Coldwell Banker in San Angelo, Texas, here to talk to you about my experience working with John and Mia Pendegrass. So I was also very excited to hear that we may have the opportunity to be on House Hunters. So I'm going to try to do a good job with this, but follow the instructions and not over dramatize the situation. Although there was a little bit of actual drama. As far as the wish list, what they were wanting, they're coming from out of town, not having a lot of experience in San Angelo, which San Angelo is a city of about 100,000 people. We're one of the largest cities in the United States that's not on an interstate, so it kind of has that big, small town feel, and they weren't super familiar, so they're asking me a lot of questions. John's the kind of guy who does a lot of research. And the first property they contacted me about was a foreclosure. Or actually, it wasn't a foreclosure. It was, but it was one of those kind of properties that needed a ton of work and was priced way below market because of that. Mostly looking for an investor, cash type buyer. So he emails me about this property. That's my very first contact with him. So we started exchanging emails. This was one of those properties that it needed a ton of work, and it went like that fast because of the condition, because of the price, and all of that. So that gave me a little bit of a clue that this is someone who's looking for a deal. So we exchanged some emails, and we get a little into their wish list and what they're wanting. And I think they're probably a little bit torn between wanting a house that needs some work that has a lot of equity potential, because that's one of the things that they were wanting, was something that they could really count on a good resale experience, because I don't think they're planning on being here for a really long time. So that was the appeal for that first property they inquired about. But also, wanting the good family home in a good neighborhood, which is more what they ended up with. So as far as their wish list, I think it was like a lot of people, at least a 3-bed, 2-bath, decent area, good schools, not too far from work, which in San Angelo, you're about 15 minutes from anywhere at any point in the city. So it's always funny when people ask me, I want to make sure to get a home that's, within 15 minutes of the base. I'm like, okay, well, as long as you buy a home in San Angelo, you'll be okay. Architectural styles, really, we don't have a lot of diversity. We have either ranch-style homes or other ranch-style homes in San Angelo for the most part. But we also have some older areas of town, an area we call Santa Rita, that has a little bit more character. This is an area that began being developed in the 20s. A couple of the homes on their list were in that area. But for the most part, we're looking at homes built in the last 20 years, really in the last 10 for the ones that were piquing their interest, in a couple different areas that are a little bit more central. The biggest challenge working with John and Mia, first of all, they were wonderful to work with, but the biggest challenge, it was all about timing. It was timing on their end, and then with the house they ended up settling on, it was timing related to the sellers of that house. So they were excellent with preparation. We had our list together before they came to town, and we were ready. We knew which houses we were looking at. We had made the appointments, but they had a very short period of time. I want to say it was like a day and a half that they had to see all these houses and then make a decision on one they needed to buy. So that's always a challenge, especially when you're not super familiar with the city. They're coming here and they're trying to learn as much as they can and get a feel for it and make a good decision in a short period of time. So that was a challenge. The other challenge was the house that they ended up bidding on. There was another buyer that was interested in that house as well. And the big key was the sellers needed to close in 30 days, which used to be a pretty easy thing to do. But these days, a 30-day close, and they're using a VA loan, which 45 to 60 days, that's what all lenders want that do VA loans. They need at least 45 or 60 because you've got all the traditional lending and underwriting processes, but you're also submitting it through the VA, and wanting to have an extra couple of weeks, and VA appraisals can take longer because there's not as many appraisers that do VA. So that was a big challenge, because the sellers for this property are telling us, if you can't close in 30 days, the deal's off. So the pressure was really on for them to decide, okay, is this really what we want to do? They needed to make a good offer because this was a property that had other interest in it as well. So they were prepared to do that. We made an offer right away, and we double checked with the lender that they had already been talking with this lender, and we said, hey, we need to be able to do this in 30 days. Fortunately, I've worked with this lender a lot. We've done VAs. I've done a VA with this lender in 21 days, which is like, the holy grail for VA loans. That's crazy. So 30, I knew she could do it, but we really were counting on her, and everything has to line up. You got to order the appraisal right out of the gate and everything. So that was a big challenge, getting all that done, but we got it done, and we closed on time. There was a couple issues that came up in the inspection report, not too hard to negotiate, but really it was all about timing. They had a very short amount of time to really decide about the house that they wanted, and I think they did a really good job narrowing it down. They knew which houses were really at the top of their list before they came, and sure enough, that was one of the ones that they chose. So they kind of steered away from, I think, the dream a lot of people have about, hey, we're going to move into this house, we're going to fix the whole thing up over time, because really when two people work full-time, that's not an easy thing to do, and I'm kind of glad they didn't get themselves in that situation. So the home that they chose is in a really, it's in a really nice area. It's very close to everything. It's on the southwest side of town, which is kind of the side of town with a lot of newer development. I would say the compromise is that it doesn't have a lot of upside potential. Now, this is a house that's already in good shape. It could use some cosmetic things here and there, but there's not just a ton of upside potential with this house because it's relatively new. It's nice, but it's dependable, and I think they ended up deciding that was more important to them, just a solid area with other newer homes of similar value, close to everything, and that ended up being the top of their priority list. It's not the kind of house where you can go in and, take it down to the studs and make it brand new and try to make a profit on it in a couple years. It's something where they should have no problem retaining their value, and their equity should grow with the market, but it's a more solid and safe investment. So now, if you will join me, we are going to take a little tour around this little room and see this house. This is a house on Lakeside Street. It is a 3-bed, 2-bath. This house has been recently renovated. The kitchen comes with stainless appliances. You've got Formica countertops, and the all very in style right now, thanks to Chip and Joanne Gaines, subway tile backsplash. Now, don't be deceived. The refrigerator is negotiable, but it doesn't just stay. You can't just assume a refrigerator is going to stay. This is a nice refrigerator, so keep that in mind if you're thinking about negotiating on this house. No pantry, but it does have these pantry cabinets, so keep that in mind. The whole house has laminate floors throughout. I think this house is nicely staged because it's actually a vacant house, and you don't see quality staging very often these days. This room over here is an extra room. It's probably best use would be storage or an office, although it doesn't have central heat and air, so you'd have to do a window unit or something like that. And the dining room is kind of an eat-in kitchen, and I think that is about 30 to 60 seconds of me walking around and rambling about this room. So hopefully you've got a feel for me. I would love the opportunity to do this with John and Mia. I think their story would be fun to portray on camera, and we would have a great time. And you know you want to come to San Angelo, Texas. I know you've been thinking and dreaming about this for a long time. So hopefully we will hear back from you soon, and I do a good job filling out the paperwork on my end, and I don't screw this up for them. Thanks.